One of the things that I haven't done enough throughout all the years that I've been improving my camera and lighting skills is taking great photos of members of my family. Yes, I am usually the designated photographer at my family gatherings, but I've never gone the extra mile and done a proper shoot. Today that changes, and with a little help from the sponsor of this video, Nanlite, I will show you guys my general approach to a photo shoot, explain why I prefer video lights over flash in my photography, then near the end we will go over my lighting setups and the results. The first thing I look for when entering a space for the first time is how many usable backgrounds the location provides for me without me changing anything. In this case, we are shooting in my grandparents' apartment, which I think had a pretty favorable layout for taking photos. The next thing I look for is what is the natural light in the space doing, and how do I want to utilize or change it? My grandparents' apartment had large windows wrapping around the entire living room area, and their furniture wrapped around the room as well. This worked well for me because it provided a lot of ambient natural light to start with in the room, and their furniture provided an interesting texture for the backgrounds. Once I settle on which direction I want to shoot in, I think about how easy or difficult it'll be to light the shots. Then I try to identify what is the least amount of gear I can use to achieve the result I see in my head. This has me asking questions like, is there enough physical space for the lights and modifiers that I want to use? Am I trying to light the space or just the people in the photos? When it came to the physical space of this apartment, I knew that a standard Bowens mount light with a softbox probably wasn't going to be the best choice, mainly due to the overall footprint and difficulty of moving the light around in such a small room. I also wanted to give myself flexibility in where I shot in the room, so because I knew I was going to be utilizing a lot of the ambient natural light in the room instead of fighting it, I wanted a fairly compact key light that was just powerful enough, but also allowed easy repositioning anywhere I wanted. That's what led me to the Nanlite Pavoslim 120C, which we will touch more on in a moment. The next thing I think about is what is the best way that I can add depth in my shots outside of the lighting. This can be things like where I place my subjects in the room for maximum separation, and am I able to add any foreground elements, props, or anything else that provides more personality or makes the photos better. All of these thoughts happen pretty instantaneously, and I am usually able to decide and answer each one of these questions within the first few minutes of arriving at a location. Now, before we touch on what I ended up doing for each setup, I want to briefly talk about the reasons why I prefer using video lights over flash for photography. The first reason is that you can see what you are doing at all times because the lights are always on. I know that statement might sound so simple that it would go without saying, but with something like a speed light or strobe, the only way that you can see what your light is doing is by taking photos. Yes, some strobes have built-in modeling lights, but these, in my experience, aren't strong enough for my needs, and they don't represent the actual exposure of your shot when you fire your flash. This makes adjusting lighting slightly more time-consuming, at least for me, because you have to continuously take photos to see if you are getting the result that you want. Strobes also generally are less precise when it comes to controlling your light output, so getting the exact amount of light that you want can be more difficult. Then there are the logistical factors. I've always found video lights to be much simpler to set up. You throw a light on a stand, turn it on, choose your color temp, and you are good to go. Whereas with a strobe, you need to set up triggers, have a remote trigger on your camera, and then you need to make sure everything is synced up properly. If you want different colors or color temperatures, then you need to gel the strobe. There are just far more steps to get going, and especially if you are a beginner, it can be a bit frustrating to get the result that you want with flash. The last reason is cost. No matter what you are buying, lighting gear can add up quickly, so having a lighting kit that can do both stills and video interchangeably has worked out well for the type of work I find myself doing. For the first shot of this shoot, I knew that I wanted to start with shooting towards the windows of their apartment, so I placed my grandparents at their mahjong table to maximize the background separation between them, the walls, and the windows. The table also gave me some nice foreground while perfectly representing who my grandparents are as people. For lighting, I set a single Nanlite Pavoslim 120C and pushed it through a 6x6 shower curtain to give me a nice, soft key light. Then I added a 4x4 black floppy to the right side of frame to cut down on the extra ambient light that I didn't want in my shot, giving me back some extra contrast. The shocking thing to me is I actually didn't even need to turn the Pavoslim to 100% despite being double diffused in order to achieve the light level that I needed for this shot. From there, I took a couple extra shots of my grandpa in this same setup, just moving the 4x4 floppy a bit closer as needed. Then for variety, I took the Pavoslim with just the built-in softbox and moved it around to the other side of the table to get this close-up shot. This shot ended up being my favorite of the entire day. Moving to the other side of the living room, I had my grandma stand in front of the corner of the room, which was the spot that gave us the most depth, and I again keyed it with a single Pavoslim 120C, just with the built-in softbox, and used my 4x4 black floppy to give me just a little bit more contrast frame right. The last setup I want to show you guys is just this shot in my grandparents' kitchen. I use this bracket that Nanlite has available, which allows you to put two Pavoslim 120Cs together and make a bigger 2x2 foot soft light while also doubling your overall output. I didn't want to fight the direction of light that was naturally coming into the room, so I set this key light frame right to mimic the motivated window light coming from my grandparents' balcony door, just to make the light feel as natural as possible. Once I finished taking the photos, I actually ended up interviewing my grandpa to ask him stuff about his life that I didn't know. Just for fun, I set up a quick interview with one Pavoslim 120C as my key light. I threw the shower curtain I had over the 120C to soften it slightly more than the bare softbox. I then took a 1x1 Pavoslim 60C and moved it above my grandpa as a backlight. Here's how that interview frame looks. Making this video actually made me learn a lot about my grandparents that I didn't know, and reminded me that this is the kind of thing I feel like I should do more often because it was a great bonding experience. I also wanted to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, Nanlite. The Pavoslim 120C that you saw throughout this video is an RGB panel light that comes with a built-in softbox that you can just pop up by releasing two Velcro straps on each side. The panel comes with multiple quick release mounting options to a stand, a clamp to hold the power supply on a stand, extra diffusion options for the softbox, and a grid to help you control light spill. All of this is held in this included padded case, which makes carrying and storage easy. The 120C also has CRMX support, so if you are a professional who wants to control all of your lights in one place, you have that option as well. The Pavoslim is designed to be as accessible to the beginner user or creator as it is useful to the seasoned film professional. If you guys are looking for a bright, super versatile light that is really easy to rig anywhere, Nanlite also has a variety of other versions of the Pavoslim, as well as plenty of other kinds of lights available on their store at the first link in the video description. Thank you to Nanlite for making this video possible.